3, 2, 1. What's going on, everyone? You're watching Ash on Comics. Today is Wednesday, November 6th, 2019. When you're as old as I am, it's hard to remember what day it is. And you're watching Ash Wednesdays. This is the 15th episode of this format. Joining me, as always, is Stan the Man. Stan, it's good to have you. Man, we really miss you on the digital shows, but you're always there in spirit. Stan's trusty assistant, the channel mascot, expert on all things trash, resident celebrity, and, guest on the channel, Forky. Forky, it's always good to have you here. And we've got a show for you today. Not really. We got a comic pull. That's what we do here. This episode, this show, if you haven't really watched it before, this is just some schlub. That's me, Ash, who pulls his comics every Wednesday, makes a video about it, talks about the books, and it's basically to shoot the shit, if you will, with fellow comic fans like you. Hopefully, if you're watching this video, you're a fellow comic fan. If you're not, I'm not really sure why you're watching this. And if you are a comic fan, I'm not sure why you're watching this either. I got my box of comics here. It has my pull list on it, spoiler, and we're going to open it up and we're going to get into it. But first, one of the things we're going to do is eat a burger. Well, I'm going to eat a burger. I'm not going to make you watch it, but I always do. It's part of the tradition on this channel. Every Wednesday I stop by my favorite establishment, In-N-Out Burger, and that's what this box is. You're like, why does he have a stupid box? This is like, yes, in the day of the internet and stuff, we can do cool promo. I can do cool digital titling and stuff in this box. This is just old school. This, to me, is what YouTube should be about, right? YouTube's becoming too professional. It's getting dominated by the big corporations, and even the small guys are turning into sort of like bigger guys. They're using higher production values, which can be cool, but at the same time, there's something to be said about what YouTube started off as, is just any guy like me, some schlub, can get with a camera and make a video about something. Now, everything's not gonna appeal to everybody. By the way, that's the dogs. If you hear the noise, they go out the dog door. And they'll be drinking on the video, I'm sure, because they're alcoholics. No, I'm just kidding. So every week I unbox a burger from In-N-Out because that's my tradition. I get comics and I get a delicious burger from In-N-Out Burger. Yep, there's the drinking. There's Luke. Always got to get on camera. He knows if I'm filming that it's like, oh, hey, I'm just, don't mind me here. I'm just drinking. He recently had surgery, so he's all shaved. But he's okay. Don't worry about him. Let's see here. So there's the burger. It's not smiling. You should see the lettuce. This would be a fail burger if In-N-Out had it. If I was a mystery shopper at In-N-Out, which they have, this would be a fail burger because it needs to smile. The lettuce is supposed to make the burger open up. Where's the lettuce? Oh, there it is. Oh, you're like, yeah, get your finger out of my burger. This isn't your burger. This is my burger. I'm eating this. But still, this is delicious looking, and I'm gonna chow down before this gets any colder. These guys, I might give them a bite if they're cool. Of course, I'm gonna give them one. Not the dogs though. Dogs, you don't get anything. You get dog treats. All right, I'll see you in a minute. Thanks for indulging me when I eat my burger. I just do that part as tradition. And I want to get on to our next segment, which is the title of this episode. Before I do, I want to apologize for the audio quality on the live segments. I did not have my microphone, so you're going to notice a big dip in the sound quality. It's what it was. I had to make do with what I had, so that's why you may be noticing a sudden change. Let's get on to the big story here, which is DC Comics in dire straits, jacking up the line, priced at $7.99. Now, on my way back from the comic book shop, I was kind of thinking about what I was going to talk about, and I was thinking about what was I thinking about? I was thinking about just buying comics,
the different negative things that are in comics right now, whether it's the bad writing, the bad art, whether they're jacking up the heroes, the price of comics, all the negative aspects that you have reasons to complain about in the industry. And then also, do you continue to buy these comics? Should we buy them? Should we boycott? And then I came across a YouTube video by a gentleman, Sweetcast. You probably know Clint over at Sweetcast. He's got a pretty popular channel. And he did this video that I caught my eye. And yep, I do. I listen to while I'm driving. I don't watch, but I listen to YouTube videos. And this I had to do a video on. So let's get into what this article says here. Reading from the article, DC Comics is rumored to be jacking up the line by introducing new titles featuring Batman, Superman, Green Lantern, and more, priced at $7.99. It's claimed that with DC Comics replacing all of its core characters in the 5G promotional event, reminiscent of the politically correct Axel Alonso era at the Marvel Comics, interestingly enough, Bendis is now at DC, that everyone hated and caused sales to absolutely tank, and also caused Alonso to get fired. That DC Comics is also going to be launching a new line of Black Label comics featuring the original characters at a more expensive price, yet with more content. I gotta pause here for a second. That was a mouthful sentence. It's like, come on, Cosmic Book News. You need an editor to that whole paragraph is one sentence. Whew. All right, continuing along. It's said that for 5G, it will feature the Black Batman Luke Fox, Jonathan Kent as Superman, the child of Captain Boomerang as Flash, and either a Teen Lantern for the new Green Lantern or the Far Sector lead as Green Lantern. DC Comics Black Label will cost more, featuring original characters. The article continues. Regarding the new Black Label comics, it said plans are underway to launch a number of oversized titles starring Bruce Wayne as Batman, Clark Kent as Superman, Diana as Wonder Woman, Arthur Curry as Aquaman, Hal Jordan as Green Lantern, and Barry Allen and or Wally West as The Flash at, brace yourself, $7.99 each. So basically what we see DC Comics is doing is that they're charging their customers more for the titles they want. The original and popular characters, while the titles that no one wants will cost less. A bit of bait and switch, don't you think? Maybe those rumors of DC Comics being in dire straits are true, and that if things don't pick up, hence the new prices, DC Comics will indeed be sold off by AT&T, ? This was pulled apparently from Bleeding Cool. And so this article was something that Clint used. I also just looked it up. And that's what I just read. And that's a big news. That's huge. Now, this kind of tied in line with what I was already thinking about. So this is why I wanted to talk about it on this episode, because it got me into thinking about boycotting and what comics you're going to buy. And I already hear a lot of comments from people that I talk about on my channel will interject and put comments down and say, this is why I don't buy DC anymore, or I'm done buying, mainstream trash, yada, yada, yada. And, everyone has a right to spend their money how they choose. I'm not here to tell you how to spend your money. But I am here to kind of hopefully give some perspective, and that's why you're tuning in. And my perspective is this. You should still continue to purchase and support the things that you like. A recent example that I think is good is Batman. Now, Batman is ending Tom King's run at issue 85, and James Tynion IV is taking over on the run. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, why should I buy this? They're just going to drop him at issue 100, and Brian Michael Bendis is going to take over, and he's just a fill-in, and it's, I'm done supporting this. And look, I understand. If Brian Michael Bendis takes over Batman, I'm not going to buy it either. But number one, we don't actually know that that's the truth. That's a rumor. That's speculation. Nothing has been substantiated. But let's just say that it's actually true. Let's say DC announced that officially that is what's going to happen. You still, if you like Batman, and if James Tynion does a good job, I still urge you to purchase those Batman books, and here's why. Let's say James Tynion gets on the book, and he's able to increase sales by, say, 20,000 units, which is not really unheard of. That would just bring Batman back to what it was before King killed it. Let's say he was able to reach those sales. And then he does his thing and gets to issue 100, Bendis jumps on, and those sales tank, and they lose 20,000 units again. This forces the bean counters at DC to take notice. They can't ignore these things. Right now, the people that Dan Didio answers to don't really know the comic business. They're just executives at AT&T, Warner Brothers, what have you. And they leave it up to him to be the comics expert guy. He can fill their heads with all sorts of info. Oh, you got to use, this is how comics work, blah, blah, trust, Okay. But what they can't ignore is the numbers. He's going to have a hard time explaining why they can James Tynion and put on Brian Michael Bendis in a case of, when they don't sell. So this is why you support. These numbers won't actually happen unless fans put their money where their mouth is. And we can sit there and cry all day about all the bad things that are happening, and you're valid. This news right here is horrendous. But we need to show our support of the things that work right, because if we're not willing to support the things that we ask for, if we're not willing to say, look, we don't want to buy Batman when Tom King is writing it, and then we don't continue to support it when they take him off and put someone else on, then we're really just full of it. We're really just bitching and moaning about nothing, just a bitch, and we're not actually putting our money where our mouth is. And then they don't have any reason to really listen to us anyway, because we're not their actual customer base. So I'm not going to buy these $7.99 books. Maybe I'll buy one if it looks really good. I do currently buy Last Night on Earth. It's one of my favorite comics, period. But it's only $5.99. That's actually a really good price point. I don't want magazine style. I bought Damned, and I was done after that. I was like, no, I'm not buying these anymore. That's not true. I bought the Superman because I'm a Frank Miller fanatic. But after that, I don't buy the Harleen. I don't buy any of these other books that come out. I don't care. I don't want big magazine style stuff. I want comics. Comics shouldn't even be $3.99. They should be $2.99. Spawn can sell for $2.99. That proves that Marvel and DC could sell for $2.99 as well. They just choose not to. And they're bilking their customers. Now, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot I can do about that. If I just wouldn't be buying any comics. So I only buy the exceptional stuff. And all the rest, they can, wait for trade, or I can borrow it from someone, or what have you. So anyways, I wanted to talk about that. What do you think about $7.99? I think it's terrible. And yeah, but hopefully you consider, while you may be outraged by this, don't take the outrage out today. Voice your opinion by all means. You scream at DC, spread the word on social media, retweet stuff, which, by the way, just as a tangent, a lot of people don't really consider the retweet. Retweeting is very important. If someone is saying something that you really agree with and want to share, don't just like it. I mean, consider that someone's audience, they may only have a couple hundred people following them. The idea of the retweet is to take it and extend it from their audience to your audience. And then someone in your audience takes it and they retweet it, and it goes now to their audience. And that's how things go, quote unquote, viral. So don't retweet everything, but when you see something that's like, oh yeah, this is something that other people should hear, consider that retweet, because that's really important, of getting the message out and the word out, showing your support way more than a like. A like is just sort of like a thumbs up to someone and kind of winking at them and saying, hey, I agree with you, but it doesn't really do much. Anyways, that's all I have about this story. I think it's terrible. Go to Sweetcast, his channel. He did a little bit more in-depth talk about this. Credit to him. If you want to hear more about what's going on, I'm sure a lot of other comic YouTubers are going to jump all over this. So there you go. Let's get on to the next segment. This is one of my favorite segments to do. It's called Marvel versus DC. I really enjoy this. And I started off this year when Marvel was doubling down on their number ones from last year. In 2018, they had a record number of number ones. And then 2019, it looked like they were even doing more. And it just sort of became a running joke, the number of Marvel, number ones that Marvel released week after week. I think they had like over 100 in 2018, and 2019 just seemed to be just full acceleration on this. It seems to be even more than we had predicted it was going to be, with a seeming average of about 5 a week. If you do 52 weeks a year, you do the math, that's hundreds of number ones. It's really retarded. But DC over the past month or so has said, hey, we're going to throw our hats in the ring. We can do number ones as well. So I threw them in and said, hey, let's have a contest. Let's not, just ridicule Marvel. DC deserves ridicule as well. We can make it a contest to see who's the most predatory anti-consumer of the comics in the industry. And that's where we get this show. So let's get on to first digital sales. Now, this part isn't to do with the number ones. This actually has to do with, it has to do with positives. Really, it's about, I'm jumping the gun there. Who's selling the best books for readers who want to read? So I incorporated this because it's Marvel versus DC, but this section is not for ridicule. It's really designed to see what readers are interested in reading. And I do digital sales because A, it's easy to pull the numbers on. Comic book shop sales is really tough to actually get any real information. But on the digital sales, Comixology publishes, they don't necessarily publish the actual sales, but they publish the top 10, and it's real simple to do. Plus, with digital sales, there's no modifying circumstances. There's no multiple variant covers inflating sales. There's no speculation about, a new character being introduced, so speculators start buying up all the issues, things like that. There's no intrinsic value. There's no collectability on a digital comic. People pay money purely just to read the actual issue itself. And so I found that to be a very interesting statistic, if you will, to see which comics sell to those type of people who aren't actually comic collectors. For the most part, there might be some comic collectors who buy the digital sales, but people who literally just cough up their money to get a digital experience of reading a book. So let's start off with Silver Surfer Black, as I already spoiled here. Number 10 is Silver Surfer Black. This is a book that I've been super excited about. I just read this issue, and I haven't done a video on it because, quite honestly, I didn't really get it. So I'm looking forward to any of you guys who understood the ending, especially, but not limited to, any of my fellow YouTubers doing the comic stuff. Get with me on my, either do a video yourself explaining what the hell happened, or get with me on my Discord channel. God, I'm just all tongue-tied here. And we can talk about it. I really want to talk about this book. It's a good book, but I feel like some of the stuff went over my head. I'm sure Comic Stacks, one of my fellow YouTubers, he's been really enjoying this book. And he was talking a while ago about delving, deep diving into this book and doing a timeline, because that's the whole thing. Silver Surfer goes way back in time, then he comes back, and it gets really kind of confusing. I feel like I need to start back at issue 1 and read the whole thing. It confused me a little bit. It was good, but I just feel like I didn't grasp all of it. Next is Venom number 19, which is another Donny Cates book. So he's got 2. And look at this awesome cover by Kyle Hotz. Wow. If you're not going to have Ryan Stegman do Venom, can you get Kyle Hotz, please, to do Venom? Look at this cover. He's born to do Venom. But I feel like Marvel can't afford him, because all he does is covers over at Marvel. Over at DC, he actually does, interiors, which is pretty sad. But that's the state at Marvel. They've painted themselves into a corner where they can't afford to pay real artists other than some cover work. And Venom's a decent selling book, so even covers, oftentimes some books can't get good covers, but that's a bummer. If I can't have Ryan Stegman, give me Kyle Hotz, please. But this is good. Venom by Donny Cates. Donny Cates has transformed this comic for me. I was never a Venom fan outside of him being a Spider-Man villain, but he's really developing this character. Number 8, Star Wars Allegiance. This is not too surprising to be on the list because the new movie comes out next month, and I think there's a lot of fans that are looking to, have more story. And this is what Disney should be doing more of, in the sense of like tying books into the actual things that are going on. I don't want to see a Dr. Aphra book. I don't care about Dr. Aphra. What I want to see is more of the story that you're giving us in the movies. That was the whole thing kind of promised when DC took over and they canceled the extended universe. They said we're canceling it all because everything we do, the books, the comics, it's all going to be canon. Okay, well that's great, but since it's all canon, the problem is Marvel's really not allowed to do anything because DC doesn't trust Marvel with their property, and so Marvel just has to write all these milquetoast stories. They can't really do much in the mythology because then that would be canon, and Disney doesn't want Marvel messing up their canon, rightly so. But you see the mess it is. Anyways, they're buying this book. People are buying this book. Ethan Sachs is a name that seems like a big up-and-comer. I'm very interested to read this myself, to be honest. Number 7, Joker Killer Smile. It's Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino. I like Jeff Lemire quite a bit, but I don't like villain books. I don't like oversized, super deluxe, expensive books, especially if they're not books I'm super stoked on. I might have checked this book out if it were at a cheaper price point, but when you start doing books like this, you really exclude the people who want to dabble and try things out. When it's $7.99, it's more of a commitment, so yeah, I didn't get it. Hellblazer from the Sandman universe, which is part of DC Black Label, which goes with their idea of we need to have less imprints because we can't have Vertigo. We got to cancel Vertigo because people are confused by this imprint that's been around for 30 years. So we need to simplify by having even more imprints than ever. Now we've got Sandman universe, which Hellblazer was actually not a part of. But now he is. And it's so stupid. And so Black Label now is essentially Vertigo and more, but now we've got more. Now we've got sub imprints. We've got imprints of under DC, which now have their own sub imprints under them. Which, why didn't they just do Vertigo that way? Just make Vertigo a sub imprint. Who knows? Well, I do. It's that Vertigo failed, and they tried to lie about what the deal was, and they hired a sexual predator and a bunch of SJWs to. The editor that was running it did this, destroyed the line. But in true fashion, instead of firing him and moving on, they swept it under the carpet, gave him a lateral promotion over to Black Label, and he gets to keep his job, but they cancel the line and just pretend it was all part of the plan all along. Whatever. Anyways, I'm happy. I've heard good things about this book, and it's number 6, so apparently people want to read it. Number 5 is Harleen. And here's another DC Black Label book that I don't have any interest in for the reasons I said before on the other Joker book, because I'm just not interested in villains. A little interesting story. Well, it's not an interesting story, but years ago, back in the 90s, I was at Comic-Con, so it's a comic-related story. They were showing a sneak preview, essentially, of Oliver Stone film, and I was a big Oliver Stone fan. Love Oliver Stone. And there was a new film was going to come out that year, and it was called Natural Born Killers. And I was like, I'm going to get Comic-Con fan, we're going to get to see this first. That's going to be great. sat down all excited to see it, and I walked out of that disgusted. It's not that it's a bad movie as far as being poorly done, but the subject matter is vile. It glorifies being a serial killer, and it's a movie that was very much before its time. It fast forward to today, and a film like that is very much belonging in society. This is what comics are doing. This is when I look at Harleen, that's what it reminds me of. When I look at that Joker killer smile, it's what it reminds me of. It's this idea of we're glorifying evil, sick people. And when I look at this book, I see, like, oh, it's the romance between Harleen and Joker. And it's like, we're not supposed to like this. It's supposed to disgust us. They have a dysfunctional relationship. He's abusive, both emotionally and physically to her. We're supposed to be outraged, but Joker is a sick villain. We're supposed to look at it and say, yep, these are the qualities that make him a sick individual, why he needs to be behind bars. But instead, modern progressives have taken this concept and turned it in and romanticized it. And it's disgusting, in my opinion. But it's number 5, so you can see people are interested. Number 4, Tales from the Dark Multiverse, The Death of Superman. I have it on good word from people I trust that this is a very good book, like extremely well done. I haven't been picking these up because as much as I'm interested in the Dark Multiverse, I think they're like $5.99 a piece, and it just seemed kind of like they're like what if books. $5.99 for a what if book, one shot, But hey, I don't necessarily hate that they're here. I do actually want to read this. People have excited me about it by how well it is. I want to check it out. I just don't want to buy it, so hopefully I'll get to borrow it and read it. That was number 4. Number 3 is Deceased. Now here's a surprising book. It started off really strong, and I think part of it was the idea that it was Marvel Zombies done for DC. DC had never done it. Meanwhile, Marvel had done... How many times have they done Marvel Zombies? Like 5 or 6 times? Like, I've lost count how many times. Like, Marvel just milked that into the ground. I think I'm mixing metaphors again. And DC had never done it, so it was fresh. Now, when Tom Taylor came over, I was going to roast it, because Tom Taylor is garbage over at Marvel. But apparently he's a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type character, because over at DC, he's Dr. Jekyll. And he seems to be able to write good stuff. His Injustice books were all well received. People really like them. I look forward to actually reading them one day. And Deceased, I read the first issue of this thinking I was going to roast it because Taylor's awful, but it was like I had to concede, like, this is a good book. This is really well done. Add that to the cool covers that they've been doing on these, which aren't going to help digital sales, but for the physical sales, they're taking famous movie posters of classic horror movies and famous horror movies and doing a Deceased sort of, repurposing it for Deceased, and they really were well executed. DC has been doing this right, and it's been paying off, and the digital sales are showing that people are enjoying reading it, and this is number 6, so it's not like it's dying off. This is number 3, Deceased. Number 2 is Tom King's Batman, annual number 4. Now, Tom King's Batman is always up here. As much as we make fun of Tom King's Batman, people like it. But I know people who I trust who hate Tom King's Batman, and they've been telling me that this annual is really good. So maybe I'll get to read that. I personally don't really buy annuals unless they tie in with continuity, because that's what I care about. I don't care about some random one-shot storyline that it just has nothing to do with anything. It's just sort of, hey, here it goes. This used to have a purpose back in the day. They'd release the annuals in the summer, and the kids had all this free time. They'd release these big, thick books, and, really to kind of sell the kids that didn't really buy comics month after month. But it was like, hey, during the summer here, you can bit this book. And it was this big annual thing and get a lot of value out of it. But nowadays, it's just an excuse to sell an overpriced book, and it's kind of a product of a bygone era. I'd rather buy something else. That's just me. But I've heard the story is good, so there you go. And then of course Excalibur #1. You knew this was going to be on the list. All the X books will be on the #1, just because Hickman has made such a strong case for it. I've done videos on all of them, so you can see my opinions. So I won't get into that here, but you can expect next week it's going to be either New Mutants or X-Force. All the #1s will be on there. And the only reason they won't be #1 is because another one was released on the same day. So here is the recap of the top 10 for those of you that don't recall. If you have short-term memory problems like I do, there you go. And the final tail of the tape, Marvel 4, DC 6, an exact flip-flop from last week. DC takes the digital sales. Now, interesting point of note here is that 3 of those 6 books from DC were actually Black Label books. Also, 3 of the books, not the same books, were #1. So DC's a little bit inflated here this week, I think. We'll see if they can maintain. But it's kind of nice to see DC and Marvel, healthy, one not completely dominating the other. Next, we get on to the actual segment of #1s, which is what I was talking about in the beginning, the mockery. And let's see here who can outshine who in terms of being predatory towards their customer base. Point of note here, all these comics that I'm listing are pulled from the League of Comics Geeks website, which also has an app you can use that I use, I'm a big fan of. And you can make a pull list, you can see you can see new comics from different publishers and do all these cool sort things. You can keep track of your collection. So the way I find my books is I just pull for this week, see which comics came out this week. I filter out just Marvel and DC only, and I go down the list. Well, the list is ordered in different ways, and the way I order it is by pull. So users of the site can add comics to their pull list, like a virtual pull list, which is what I use. If you've ever seen the printout that I use that shows my comics week after week, this site keeps track of that for me and tells me, hey, this week these comics are coming out on your pull list. So this is the order of users, pull. So New Mutants had more users than anyone putting it on their pull list. Does that make sense? And then the last comic was the least popular. So this is the most anticipated. So starting off, #1 is New Mutants, and that puts Marvel ahead 1-0 versus DC. This New Mutants #1 issue will set you back $5. Next, we have X-Force. Surprise, surprise. Also a #1, also part of the X-Men super launch that is drowning customers in comics. This will also set you back $5, and Marvel leads 2-0. Wow, Marvel's not happy with DC beating them the last 3 out of 4 weeks, so they're coming out strong. But not to be deterred, Legion of Superheroes #1 debuts by Brian Michael Bendis, everyone's favorite destroyer of comics lines. He spent 20 years destroying Marvel until they were barely recognizable. And then DC decided, hey, can you come over and make our comic company look completely unrecognizable? And he's like, show me the money. And they're like, great, come over here, wreck Superman first. Now here you can have Legion of Superheroes. Now, one thing I have to credit DC, they're only charging you $4 for this book. I don't think they got the memo from Marvel how to, charge the extra $1 on these #1s. But it is Bendis, so it's not like people really I think they would sell quite a bit less. Speaking of #1s and predatory practices, this whole list will be, this is actually Green Lantern #13, but then DC had a great idea and said, wait a second, why make it Green Lantern 13 when we can just renumber it as #1? So they got this great idea that there's a new story arc, and we'll just start it over at #1 and make it a miniseries. And then what happens when the miniseries is over? You guessed it, Green Lantern is coming back, as a new ongoing series starting at number 1 again. But this book's only $4, so that's a plus. It's now tied 2-2. Oh, but Marvel realizes, wait a second, you remember that Weapon Plus book that came out several months ago? That's just all the rage that everyone just is paying through the nose to get because it's such a hot commodity. No one remembers that went down the memory hole. Well, if you forgot, here's a new one. It's number 1, so just like that last one, that's worth nothing that no one cares about. This one will be worth something. This one will, of course, probably let you retire in style. Make sure you buy 10 of them. There's probably multiple variant covers for you to get. It's only $5. So, look, I mean, you get whatever this Wolverine, Hulkverine, I don't know what the hell that guy is. You get some weird Venom guys. I mean, let's just take all the cool stuff and just mishmash it. Throw Weapon Plus. Everyone likes Weapon X. So Carnage is in the name. Look at this. Everything here, it's gold. If you just mix it all together, how can this not be worth money? Right? Marvel leads 3-2. Next, we've got King Shazam. Oh, man. If there's a popular character at DC that needs a number 1 that's going to just give you something really to invest in, it's Shazam. And this is the infected... I don't know. The infected King Shazam. I don't think anyone cares about this, to be honest. But it's only $4, so, it's a lower investment. It's like think of it like a penny stock. Marvel's like real stock. DC's like penny stock. Tied 3-3. But Marvel understands that ace in the hole is Spider-Man. It used to be back in the days when I was a kid and buying comics, you got a new Spider-Man book like once every 20 years, right? You had Spectacular Spider-Man. I think it was like 20 years it ran before they released Web of Spider-Man. And then that ran for maybe like 10 years before Todd McFarlane got his Spider-Man book. They came out very rarely. I mean, you had an opportunity to get a number 1. But now Marvel's like, wait a second, why wait 10 years for a new Spider-Man? We can do one a week. And it's pretty much seems like almost weekly Marvel has a new Spider-Man book. And this one, they've decided to team up and put him with Venom because, Spider-Man's greatest arch adversary ever, Venom, my favorite Spider-Man villain. Why make them villains? We can make them friends now. And look at tee-hee-hee. It's all tee-hee-hee. Oh, so funny, cutesy humor. Because, that's what I think of as funny and cute is Venom. But what do I know? Marvel leads 4-3. And then boom, after they release their ace in the hole, this is Marvel running up the score. This is basically Marvel saying, that book, we heard you back in the 80s, Ash, when you were screaming, why are you giving us a Wolverine series? Why are you giving us a Punisher ongoing series? These are not characters that people want to have their own books. Why does Yondu not have a book? And it took you 30 years. And they're saying, we're sorry. We understand. We're here. Here's the Yondu book you've always wanted. Look at this gigantic number 1 there on the cover to remind you how much we care about you. It has nothing to do with us trying to sell trash. It's to give you that number 1, and so you can hang this on the wall with that big number and know that your voice was heard 30 years later. Whatever. Marvel leads 5-3. And here we go. Future Fight Firsts, Crescent and Io. That's a mouth. That's hard to say. This is written by that woman, Alyssa Wong, who allegedly trashed Stan Lee and said that she was going to destroy his legacy at Marvel that was her goal, should she ever get hired at Marvel. And then she called Editor-in-Chief C.B. Cebulski a racist. And then promptly after that, even though she's got no writing experience for comic books or anything, they hired her purely on merit. I mean, it has nothing to do with the fact that she's got Chinese and ethnic background and she's writing Chinese characters. No, it has nothing to do. This is purely merit. Alyssa Wong is, of course, a fantastic talent. And as such, they're charging $5 for her book. And you need to get this because, it's Alyssa Wong. It's a number one. I mean, wow, it's going to be a sought-after item. Marvel leads 6-3. Next, we get to Genlock, number one. DC's answering back with an adaptation of a internet group's animated thing. This is not fitting of DC, but hey, it's Rooster Teeth. Maybe it's $4. DC's closing the gap, 6-4. Oh, and here we go. Teen Titans Go Giant. Teen Titans Go Giant. Now, 100 pages, only $5. I got to give them credit. This is a book, actually, that you want to pick up for your kids, probably. This would be tons of entertainment value. But pick up multiple ones. Make sure you get, because, your kids are going to tear it up. You want to have a couple of copies that you can put in a Mylar and store it away for, so when those kids grow up and they're going to go away to college, you'll be able to pull these comics out and, maybe afford a Starbucks coffee with them. Maybe. DC closes the gap at 6-5. And unfortunately, that's it. Marvel pulls out the win. 6-5, showing DC who's the boss. Don't mess with the champ. They only had 20 comics this week. 6 of them, over a quarter of the books that they release, are number one issues. DC, on the other hand, over 1/3 of their books are number one issues. So even though Marvel has more, you got to almost credit DC to this. Like, they're just like, wow, we produce less than you and a higher ratio of number ones. But Marvel's got the A game going when it comes to variants. Look at that. When you add in all the variants, 67 total unique comic versions versus DC's only got 24. DC's really got to jump on that bandwagon and start pushing out those multiple, 20 different variants on every new number one. Marvel's got it. They understand how to really milk their customers. DC is still an amateur, and Marvel's putting them in their place. You're going to spend only $28 this week to add these number ones to your pull list versus DC's $21. And if you're a completionist and you want all the number ones, then by all means, you need these number ones, right? You're going to only pay $49 on top of whatever else you're buying. But who am I kidding? You're not buying anything else. This is the number ones are the only thing that matter, right? That concludes this segment. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you liked seeing what was what. It's kind of long. I'm still kind of working on tightening it up. Thank you for getting this far. Let's get on to the comics. That part will be shorter, I promise you.
All right, this is going to be quick because I have something I got to get to. I ran out of time. Always show your receipts. There's my receipts for my books this week. Starting off with the Independence. We got It Came on a Wednesday. The aptly titled book from Alternative Comics, $1.99. It's a double-sized anthology issue. Totally worth your money. Highly recommend this. Support a great comic company, Alterna Comics. They might be the best publisher in the business. Speaking of Alterna, I've also got Red Koi number 2. Now, they also had Shadow Void or something. What was it called? Void Walker. And my store didn't pick it up. I'm really trying to get them to pick up more Alternas. I didn't know about it, so I didn't pre-order it, but they found a copy. I should be getting that next week. Then I got Black Hammer 3 for $1. This is thick. This is like Spawn 300 thick. It's like Absolute Carnage number 1 thick. Normally those are $7.99 comics. It's that thick for $1. Pick this up. You get Black Hammer number 1, and you get 2 other comics in here. 3 comics for $1. I absolutely have to support that book. And I've always been curious about Black Hammers. Jeff Lemire, fantastic. I also picked up Undiscovered Country. I wasn't sure if I was going to pick it up, but I really love Scott Snyder. I've been hearing good things. And to my fellow YouTubers, why you guys got to spoil everything like Tuesday night? I'm seeing people like, here's my video review. I'm like, Tuesday night? I don't even have the book. I can't watch your show. I wake up Wednesday morning and I want to watch something. And everyone's got spoiled books, Wednesday spoiled books. But I've heard good things, and I decided to pick it up. This is the B cover. I was like, wow, this looks a lot better than the normal cover. So I got that. On to DC, Flashpoint #1. I never read Flashpoint. I do actually have the trade for this on digital, but I was like, yeah, it'd be cool to actually have a physical copy. I do like the physical. So it's $1. Again, I'm going to support good value. Going on with DC, we've got Year of the Villain, Legion of Doom. I wish you could see these books. I don't have time to open this up right now, but they have like the cellophane kind of cover. So the background is clear, where you see the background, and then the characters are printed. So you like open it up, and then you can see underneath it. And they're only $3.99. So it's like a nice, extravagant, gimmicky cover, but they didn't charge extra, which makes me wonder why they have to charge you an extra $1 for the thick cardstock covers. Could it be a ripoff, DC? Here they also did City of Bane, similar thing. Bane is the cover, but you open it up and then you can see the explosions, everything behind him. Again, I can't show you right now because I'm running out of time, but I picked up that. And I'm only picking up Batman because I'm seeing it through. There's 3 more issues, and there's no reason to cancel it now, I guess. I'm just going to tough it out. I wasn't going to pull this, but I decided to anyway because it is Jonathan Hickman, New Mutants. I've never been a New Mutants fan, even when Chris Claremont was doing it. It's not because of the writing being bad or anything. Just the concept of New Mutants never won me over. I didn't like it. However, I was like, wait a second. These other books aren't following the old school paradigm, so maybe this New Mutants book will not follow the paradigm either. I should give it a chance. I picked up the #1. The book that I am hoping doesn't suck is X-Force, so I did pick that up. Everyone's excited about Benjamin Piercy. I don't think he's the bee's knees, if you will, as Eric Breen might say, but I'm going to give him a chance. I'm going to try to be an optimist and put my money where my mouth is. I don't know if that's the right metaphor, but I picked up the book. Hopefully it's good. And then finally, last and best, is Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil. Holy crap, I've done a review of issues 11 and 12 of this story through hell. It's great. it's really good. I'm really looking forward to this book. Daredevil's not on your list. It should be. Zdarsky and Checchetto are a fantastic team. It sucks that Checchetto doesn't do every arc, but I'll take what I can get. And that's it for this week. So tell me what you think is going to be the best. If I fan these out here. What do you think? Oh, Forky, man. There's not a trash can beneath you. I think it's going to be Daredevil. Which one? Borky always picks Batman. It's no contest. So those are my picks this week. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.